Get ready for the possibility of much higher gas prices.
If you don't know us, I'm Larry.
And I'm Hope.
And we're from Under the Median, where every week we bring you videos on practical frugality.
2 days ago, I became aware that it was recently announced that California is looking to dramatically raise their gas taxes. Have you heard about this? Tell us about it in the comment section if you have, especially if you live in California. We really want to know. What is the buzz in California? What's everybody saying there that actually lives in the state? Here's what I can tell you. According to a recent Fox News article, I'll just read directly from what it said in the article. California gas prices will rise by about 50 cents a gallon in the next year and every year thereafter to aid in clean air efforts. The price increase does not include the existing gas tax in the state. And it does, the first question that begs to be asked is, well, that's California. What does that have to do with the rest of the nation? We live in Illinois, which happens to be the second highest gas taxed state in the union.
Right behind California.
And there is a saying in the state of Illinois that says, as California goes, so goes the rest of the nation. So in other words, when you see trends happening on the West Coast, they tend to make their way from the West Coast to the East Coast, and they do impact all the states in between.
Now, Hope and I don't know exactly what this will all mean in terms of future gas prices. The most important thing that we try to do is plan for anything that possibly could happen. And by planning, we're avoiding panicking.
The main way that we're planning is to figure out how we can maximize the miles per gallon that we're already getting. I think it goes without saying. When you fill the tank, you want to make sure that you're actually putting into the tank the lowest price gasoline that you can find. The easiest way to do that, guys, is Gas Buddy. Gas Buddy is online. It's also an app. If you don't want to download an app to your phone, it's okay. You can just go to the Gas Buddy website on your phone browser, and you can tell Gas Buddy, here is the city, the state that I'm in. Can you find the least expensive gas within a certain mile radius? It'll let you set that radius. We use it all the time. In fact, we just filled up about 3 days ago and saved 20 cents per gallon by finding the least expensive station in town. And it happened to be actually really close to our house. It was within about 3 or 4 miles. And we're like, well, I guess we're going to go fill up at that gas station. So Gas Buddy is a great way to do that.
It is. Another thing that you might consider along with Gas Buddy to save you money on the gas itself, make sure you're putting in the type of gas that your car needs. Don't go for a real high octane gas. If your car will take 89 octane, that is the cheapest gas you can put in. Don't put in like 91 or 92 octane gas. For one, you'll be wasting it and paying a lot of extra money that you don't need to.
Your car owner's manual. Best thing to read, guys. It's going to help give you all the information that you need to know about how to help your car run at peak efficiency. And really, efficiency is what this video is all about. Once you've got the gas into the gas tank, there are so many things that you can do to maximize the number of miles that you are getting on those gallons of gas. Tip number 1, drive conservatively. This means no fast starts, no hard stops. Try to keep your speed consistent.
When you make a fast start, you're wasting a lot of gas right off the get-go, because it takes a lot of gas to get your car from 0 miles an hour up to the speed limit. You're best if you just take it easy and do a nice, gentle acceleration technique. When you're stopping at a stoplight, you got a stoplight ahead of you. I notice so many in traffic will just run all the way up to that stoplight at full speed and then hit their brakes really hard within a few feet of that stoplight. And that is the most inefficient way to drive that there is. When I see a stoplight 2 or 3 blocks away, I let off of the accelerator and I let the car slow itself down to a reasonable amount, so when I actually get there, I'm not having to put a lot of pressure on that brake pedal. That saves you gas and it saves you your brakes as well. So it is a lot cheaper to drive if you drive carefully.
The next tip is one that we tell our teenage drivers all the time. Tell me amen in the comment section if you've ever said this to your teen. You want to tell them, don't speed. Well, for obvious reasons, because you don't want to get pulled over. But the other thing to remember is that your car ideally is designed to run at speeds between 45 and 50 miles an hour.
When they had the Arab oil embargo back in the 70s, I was first learning how to drive back then. They lowered the speed limit at national level down to 55 miles per gallon because vehicles run more efficiently between, as Hope mentioned, actually between 45 and 50. By the time you're going 55, you're still running pretty efficiently. Once you get faster than that, wind drag costs quite a bit, and you're working against that issue when you're on the highway driving at 70 miles an hour.
The next tip is to give yourself plenty of time to get from point A to point B. A lot of times we are speeding and we're going fast because we are running late.
We're in a hurry.
Well, I am running late. Larry is never running late. I am the one that's always running late. So I need to take my own advice. Make sure that you allow yourself plenty of time. What that allows you to do is to take the routes that are just a little bit slower. It may take you a little bit longer to get there, but ultimately you will be getting better miles per gallon with your gasoline. The next tip, avoid hard braking.
Yeah, we kind of mentioned this. When you're driving to where you're hitting the brakes real hard all the time, you're wasting all the energy that you had built up to the speed that you were driving. So when I'm driving my smaller cars especially, I can really see quite a difference by letting off of that accelerator, and then I just stop it right before I get to the light changes, and then I go again. But if you're always hitting the brakes really hard, you're wasting a lot of energy.
This is also known as timing the lights.
Yes.
Interestingly, and a lot of towns don't do this anymore, but for decades in our town, if you hit a light green, that cycled, as long as you were going the speed limit, you could go all the way from our house to downtown with hardly hitting a red light because the lights were timed to stay green. As long as you were going that speed limit, then you would stay in that green cycle and you wouldn't have to stop.
Unfortunately, they're not timed that way anymore. I wish they were, because boy, that was a nice way to go when you hit those and you hit every green light on the way down. Another thing you need to do is keep your car well maintained. A well-maintained car will run more efficiently and therefore get better gas mileage. And that means keep your oil changed so it's running, the engine's running nice and smooth. Keep your air filter and your oil filters changed. If you have to do any greasing, like the ball joints, most newer cars don't have fittings anymore. They don't have the grease fittings like the older ones did. But if there's any amount of greasing that you need to do, make sure that that's done as well. Check your exhaust system. Make sure it's working right. Because if your exhaust system is working the way it should, then you're going to get, once again, the best mileage.
Another thing that you need to do that you don't maybe generally think about is limit the amount of time your car is idling.
Yeah.
We all have those moments. You go, you're picking your kid up from something, you're in a long line of parents. And you're waiting and waiting and waiting. And in the meantime, your car is idling and it is using gas while it is idling. If you're going to sit there, and I don't mean in traffic. You're not going to turn your car off while you're in traffic. I'm talking about when you're pulled over to the side of the road, you're in a line of cars, you're waiting to do something, turn the car off. Don't let it idle.
The nice thing about turning your car off is that it uses very little gas to start it up. So you're really saving a great deal. Now, the reason why a lot of newer cars are designed for the engine to shut off at a stoplight is because you do use gas while you're sitting there at that stoplight. My Honda Fit does not shut off. The engine stays running. And I let it run, of course, at the stoplights. But I notice that the gas mileage, it has a real good gas gauge on it built in. It will go down 1/10 or 2/10 of a gallon at a longer light. So it is using gas when it's just sitting there idling. So anytime you can shut it off, shut it off.
And once again, we're reiterating, don't shut your car off at stoplights.
No.
We're not saying that.
No.
We're saying when you're sitting somewhere and you are not going to leave for a few minutes,
Yeah.
then shut your car off.
And we're not suggesting you shut it off if you live in Texas and it's 105 degrees and you need the air conditioning to work, use the air conditioning and keep your car running. Or if you need the heater to run while you're waiting for somebody, that's different. We're not talking about those circumstances. We're just talking about if you can shut it off, shut it off.
The next one is a little bit controversial and it's kind of got mixed reviews. Use the cruise control when you can. I never use the cruise control in town. Larry uses it frequently when he's in town. When we are out at highway speeds, both of us use the cruise control. So just go over a little bit when to use it, when not to use it.
Well, I use it in town if the speed limit's 45 miles an hour and there's a long distance between stoplights where I know that I'm going to be running at 45 for a pretty good amount of time. I'll go ahead and set the cruise control so the car will stay at that speed. When you're not using the cruise control and you're just looking at the speedometer occasionally, you're always adjusting the speed. You're letting off gas or you're putting more gas on. And whenever you're adjusting your accelerator pedal, you're using a little bit more gas every time you put the gas on. So having that set to the cruise control runs it more efficiently at the same speed. The other reason why I like to turn it on is so that I don't accidentally go through a speed trap and have to get a speeding ticket. If I know my car is going the correct speed, I don't have to ever worry about that.
This next one is one you might not think of. And this is one of the first things that Larry teaches our boys when he is teaching them how to drive. And that is that you need to keep your tires inflated to the correct tire pressure.
The way that you do this is on most American-made cars, and I think quite a few foreign cars too, you open the driver's door, and right inside that door, there is an indicator that tells you how much pressure to put in all four of your tires. The front tires might take slightly different air pressure than the rear tires, and you want to make sure that you're putting the proper amount in. A lot of newer cars will send a light on the dash when they're too low, and it's when the air pressure is low is when you're using more gas. But if you keep your tires properly inflated, the other thing is that your tires will last longer. So this is actually better for the car. One of the things that I've found that's been really handy at keeping the tires properly inflated is a little portable battery operated unit like this one. This is a GrePro, G-R-E-P-R-O air compressor. This was sent to us as a sample to try out and to make sure whether we like it or not. And I'll have to admit, just based on the size, I didn't think this would fill a full-size tire on a car. But amazingly, this not only fills them up, it fills them fast. All you have to do is press this button to turn it on. You press and hold, and then it comes up and it shows you the pressure that it's going to fill the tire up to. You hit a plus and a minus to adjust that. Then once you hook this up to the car tire itself, it tells you what the pressure is currently in that tire. When you press this button right here and hold it, it brings the tire up to that pressure. I've checked this with a tire gauge and found this to be extremely accurate about the amount of pressure that it's putting in the tires. This is so much easier than the big, huge tire compressor that I used to use to fill the tires on the car. So I would highly recommend getting one of these.
Not only do we really like the small size, it doesn't make a lot of noise like the old-fashioned air compressors do. Guys, we're going to leave a link to this in the description of the video, but we did want to show it to you because it's one of the things that really surprised us, because when they sent it to us, we thought, we're not super enthused about this. But the more he used it, he was like, holy cow, this is really great. And because of the size too, get it, keep it in your car.
Put it in your glove compartment.
It's very inexpensive too.
And look at this, it even has a flashlight built in on top with several different functions on it. A flashing and an emergency, you can put that in your rear window in case you get stopped on the highway or something. So very handy to have. This will keep your car running efficiently.
How often do we check the air pressure in our tires? I would say every 2 to 4 weeks.
Yeah.
We probably tend to go a little bit more toward 4 weeks than 2 weeks. You need to check it probably more often than you think that you need to check that.
I would check it when the temperature is changing quite a bit too. When it's real cold and it warms up, your tires will actually inflate a little bit. And when it's real warm and you get a cold spell, they'll actually lose some pressure. So you need to adjust it during those times.
The next tip is to buy a car that gets good gas mileage. Now, we recognize that some of you, for various reasons, you have large families, you got to have large vehicles. We get that. For years, we drove a van. If you drive a van or an SUV, downsize when you can. Larry had to twist my arm multiple times in order to downsize. And he's like, honey, the boys are gone. They've moved out. They're adults. They're not coming back. We need to downsize this car. So we downsized. We have a Toyota Prius and we have a Honda Fit, both of which get excellent gas mileage.
When she says excellent gas mileage, the Prius gets over 50 miles to the gallon, and my Honda Fit will get 45 miles to the gallon. And that's if I'm not using the air conditioning.
But having said that, even when we drove the larger vehicles, by using all the tips and strategies that we are showing you in this video, you can get the best miles per gallon you possibly can, even if you're driving that large size vehicle.
Another tip is to use your AC, as I kind of mentioned. Use it less often, or don't try to use it much at all. Now, if you live in a real warm area like Texas, that's going to be different for you because your AC there is as important to you as heaters are in our cars in the wintertime. But anytime you can turn the air conditioning off, especially if you're driving slower around town where you can put the windows down and you're not getting a lot of wind drag, that will really improve your mileage.
Now, the reason that Larry has been testing out the theory of using AC versus not using AC is because an Under the Median viewer wrote about a week ago and said, AC at highway speeds, yes or no? And we knew, because we had researched it, that experts tell you to use the AC at highway speeds because the drag will cause you to have less effective gas mileage if you've got those windows down. And Larry said, I'm going to test it for him. So for the past 2 weeks, he has been driving our son back and forth to work, using the AC, then not using the AC to test out this theory. And as he said, his research showed that he got better gas mileage not using the AC and having the windows down. Now, why could that be? There are a lot of different factors at play here, one of which is it's only a 10-mile drive each distance, and half of that is in the city. Yeah. So it could be that he's at highway speed for less time. If you're at highway speed for greater periods of time, it very well could be better to keep that AC on and keep the windows rolled up. And definitely, we would tell you that the make and model of your car is going to make a huge difference as to whether that AC is going to help you or hinder you at highway speeds.
Another thing that I've done that helps with that is also not rolling the windows all the way down. So I might have all 4 of them cracked, maybe a half an inch, just enough to bring in some air on the highway. So we're not getting quite as much wind drag. Once again, you try out what works best for you and see if you're getting the best mileage when you're on the highway with the air conditioning on or with the windows down. That will tell you the true picture for you.
We want to know, have you tested this theory? Tell us in the comment section, have you actually tested it? How did it work out for you? Did you get different results than we got when we tested the theory of the AC?
This next tip is going to sound a little different because I'm going to give another tip that's going to almost counter it. But they recommend that you avoid shorter trips in your car. And what they mean is they don't want you driving so short that your engine's not warming up. So that means if you're going to the grocery store and it's only, let's say, a mile away or a mile and a half away, that may not be enough time for your car to warm up all the way. Your engine runs the best when it's warmed up. So I don't recommend taking real long trips unnecessarily, but real super short trips are not going to give you the best mileage.
So what you could do is our next tip, which is to go out less often and combine those trips. So maybe you're not going out every day, you're going out once or twice a week. But when you go out, you're getting all those errands done all at the same time, rather than taking those short trips every single day.
And along with these 2 tips, you can also avoid left-hand turns as much as possible. Try turning right whenever possible. Right turns are more efficient. They're simpler. You usually don't have to wait very long. In our state, we can turn right on a red light as long as there's no traffic coming. This really does save you a lot of time over a left-hand turn. So anytime you can turn right, that's a good thing to be able to do.
And in case you're wondering, the large package delivery places like UPS,
yes.
This is a stated rule and a goal for their drivers to make as many right-hand turns as possible, because they know, especially if you've got a huge fleet of trucks on the road, the more right-hand turns, the less they pay in gasoline.
Another item to consider is reducing the clutter in your car. And this means any heavy packaging that you have in your car that you're just running around town with, that's costing you extra to transport that. Take that out of your car and get your car as light as you can. The lighter your car is, the better it's going to start up, especially from a stop, the less gas it's going to use.
This next one, Larry has also tested for you.
Yes.
He did not do it of his own volition, but he has been testing it because our son's work hours recently have had him getting off right in the middle of rush hour.
Yeah. If you can avoid rush hour traffic, that means if you want to go out and run some errands, don't run them right at 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, for instance, because you're going to get into more traffic. There's going to be more cars at the stoplight, more cars. With cars ahead of you, they're going to be turning either right or left. They will slow you down. The more traffic that you run in, the slower you're going to be, the longer it's going to take to get to where you want to be. So if you can avoid rush hour traffic, that is the best thing to do to save a little money on gas.
Clearly, there are a lot of factors which affect the miles per gallon that you're able to get with your car. But one of the factors that we haven't talked about yet is the fact that the make and model of your car that you choose to drive does ultimately affect your gas mileage. We have paid cash for our cars for the past 30 years. And we have a system that we use every time we are looking to replace a car. Now, if you'd like to learn our system and how we save to pay cash for vehicles, there's a video on it and it's right over there.